Oh, good.
So, yeah.
Never a good day without a good trigger.
Hi, folks. Welcome to the Beloved Presence podcast. This is Leslie Davidson, and I am your High Priestess of Holy Shit. Okay, so today we're doing something a little bit differently. I'm chatting with Śivani from Solace and Shine.ca. Śivani is a medium, an intuitive artist, a Sannyasin on the Yogic path. She has an ashram in BC, in the Purcell Mountains of BC, and she's going to talk with us today about, eventually we get to yoga ecology, but not in this episode. Today we talk about a lot of stuff, and it's a good time. I hope you enjoy it. Listening to your podcast is bringing me back to back in my early 20s, my initial first mystical revelation of oneness, and all of the stuff that came in at that time. Your podcasts were it's like re-sparking that it's all real. Do you know what I mean? Bringing me back to that. Yeah, it was really beautiful. There was a lot of stuff that, and I got triggered by something you said.
Oh, good.
So, yeah.
Never a good day without a good trigger.
Oh, right. Hooray, triggering. You said, when people say I am God, that's a red flag. And I was like, oh, fuck. I say that. I have said that. I think I said that recently, but I understand that I get it, because it's not a comfortable place to be in. We are God is the next bigger truth. But it also made me reflect on what that meant for me in my life, and how important it was for me. Back in the same time in my early 20s, there was this campaign in Canada by the Molson Canadian Brewery Company that was the I Am Canadian thing in it. And so I Am was this huge, another revelation in my life. It was a statement of beingness that I had never had before in my life, to say I am, I exist, I am. And the next step to that was, I am also God. Because in Christianity in the West, you're not. You're not at all, so that is a definite step. But I was totally oh no, I'm triggered that she would think that something that I did was a red flag. So there's been a lot of there's been a lot of I don't know, there's just been a lot of I'm coming into community with a woman who has been practicing a spiritual path for a long time, and I had a lot of insecurity about that.
Right.
Do you know what I mean?
Aww.
Yeah. No, don't
do you want me to speak to that languaging a little bit, to give context a little bit more? Would that be helpful?
No, if you feel guided to do that, for sure. I feel like it's just all my own stuff around my insecurity, walking a path. And this is all very new to me within the last 2 years, is of accepting my wisdom as real and shareable and authentic,
which is beautiful.
And and I've always I'm grappling as well with the fact that I'm not part of an organized religion. There's no established background lineage that I belong to. But I also belong to, I'm reconnecting to the Celtic part of it, which is giving me belonging. So I mean, there's a lot going on here, right? For me anyway, in terms of my growth and the things that I'm learning about myself. And so thank you for being a mirror to my triggers. Well, your story about going to the ashram the first time and having that experience with that guy who came with a lot of questions and had a lot of things to say about you, and how you realized no, your truth, and what what is real and what has happened, and your guru would know as well, and that you could
if
stand
he
in
was
that.
legit, if
Sure.
if the guru dude was legit, then he would know, like,
Right.
and that was, and so of course it's like, it's not that I believed some old man would believe me. That's what the West looks at it and sees, but it's not. It's that if at the essence I knew that the truth, God, love, the higher self would know the truth of my intentions and my heart, and that, then that's what I would need it. And that was really the first experience of trusting myself. You know, you project it onto the outside, but I'm not projecting it onto a human being that was going to project it back. I was projecting it onto a human being that had dissolved so much of the individual consciousness himself that he wouldn't even, consider that understanding. So it was literally like taking that self knowledge and throwing it through a portal right into the heart of the universe, going, well,
right.
Yeah.
And knowing that the larger would know you.
Yeah, exactly.
I know. I resonated with that really strongly, and felt also very like a lot of gratitude that you had allowed yourself to be vulnerable and share a lot of, like, you've shared a lot of yourself in your podcast. There's a lot of you and your stories, and like that
I'm
was
starting
like
to realize this.
no, but it's great. Like, it actually like it was so perfect for me to feel like, oh, okay, like this is a safe space. Like, there's not going to be judgment here, and that's really what that's what I was worried about, is like, oh, I'm going to be spiritually judged for being inferior, and I know that that's my own stuff.
Yeah,
I know that. But your sense of self there in your podcast was very like, oh no, that is mine. That's my own fear and my own stuff, and Śivani's safe here. So like, relax. So there's been a lot going on in myself.
It's been a very intense couple of weeks. So I'm really not, like, you're right there with us. It's like the last couple of weeks have been very intense. Reorientating, on the inside for me also. So, but this is why we came. This is the deliciousness.
Yes, exactly. When I can remember that and not, be overwhelmed in just the things that are happening. I'm really interested to hear about yoga ecology, and like that's
yoga. Yoga ecology is something like in the West, it's like very new, of course, in the ancient texts, and that it's fundamental. It's just that the West has been so obsessed with standing on its head that it's only just starting to wake up to realize that yoga is not an exercise regime, but an orientation to life. And that is non-denominational and polytheistic. Yoga is polytheistic. Even Tantra and Vedanta are polytheistic philosophies. They don't have a god, and they don't even have a Hindu god, right? They are the philosophy behind the one, and you can project onto whichever one you want it to be. It's not a recruiting system.
I didn't realize that. I thought it was strictly part of a Hindu spiritual practice.
So the way that I relate and understand to it, and the way I have been taught, is that Vedanta and Tantra are the two main philosophies. That yoga is the scientific practices and sort of like the practical aspect of preparing the human self for experiences embedded in the philosophies. Out of those philosophies is born the people experiencing those philosophies, is born Buddhism, is born Hinduism. Now the gods, the Hindu gods, are actually the mandalas of light that are connected to the tantric the tantric philosophies. So in tantra, born out of tanoti and trayati, to expand and liberate consciousness. That's what tantra means. It's not about taking your clothes off or sex or orgies or anything like that. Like, nope. You know, it's expand and liberate consciousness. And in that philosophy, to do that process, we relate to frequencies on 3 different ways: mantra, sound; yantra, the visual geometric shapes like the Sri Yantra, which are actually 3-dimensional, but we experience them 2-dimensionally, we draw them 2-dimensionally; and mandala as the form. And so all the Hindu gods, all of their symbologies of what they're holding and the positions they are and the color of their skin and the color of their clothes and everything like that, are all like a recipe of the subconscious mind to be hit to the specific archetypal frequencies of the soul relating to itself. So the Hindu gods are actually these mandalas, these 3-dimensional forms of light that are like a symphony playing inside of us on a resonant level. And so when we bow down to those Hindu gods, we're actually taking the ego and putting it to the side so that the higher self can relate directly to the experience of embodied divinity on a calibrational level.
Nice.
So
yeah,
then Hinduism and Dharma, the Brahmins of Hinduism are like, okay, well, this has to be kept very, very sacred and very, very pristine and very, very person. And so we're going to create a whole bunch of rules around it and call that Hinduism. But if you go beyond Hinduism, it's actually,
that makes a lot of sense.
Jesus was a guru. As I wrote in my book, The Yoga of Remembrance, Jesus was a guru. He was an embodiment of the divine light on earth, setting the example of what was possible.
Right. And not a separate, unattainable, gate-kept deity.
That's
only
much
Christianity
more
has.
Oh yeah, no, it's totally else, that's much more the patriarchy. That's the religious power over governmental, you have to go through me. You do not have sovereignty. The sovereign is the queen. The sovereign is the king.
Yeah.
You have sovereignty. There is no separation between you and the divine. And when you like, my experience of actually stepping into a lineage and having a guru is, the guru has no interest in being between you and God. The guru is nothing but like a transmitter that is sitting there vibrating at, this is what embodied divinity feels like. Now you calibrate to it.
Right.
Inside of yourself, so that you can experience the divinity inside of yourself without having to go through me. This is not a codependent thing.
Right. Yeah.
Which is very different to what the West thinks it is.
It's not at all. Like, it's completely different. Yeah. Well, the West is very like hierarchical. So there's always got to be someone on top, like pointing down and telling you, instead of us coming together and coming up together.
Yeah. So that's, I think, where
so
in the podcast, when I said, people who say I am God or I am humble or I am enlightened, it's a red flag, because if they're speaking in the context, to the context, not even if they are embodying it, but if they are speaking to the people that are still in the bandwidth of seeing things only through a hierarchy, like the Western mind does, then that statement, whether it's true or not, to speak that statement to that audience is to create separation.
Right. I is separate from we. Yes.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And so the people that are embodied their divinity do not need to say it. And then when you are with a group that is of a different bandwidth, where they're not in that hierarchy bandwidth, and you say, I am God, or divinity is within me, or we are God, because it's being heard through the ears without the hierarchy, it's a completely different statement. So it's not just about who's saying it, but who are they saying it to?
Do you not think that it's also valuable to say we are God, even to people who are still in a hierarchy mindset, just from the point of view of constant reference to the holiness like the whole,
Yeah,
is
to
gonna
say we
plant
are God.
seeds. Yeah, to
Yeah,
say
yeah,
we
to say
are
we are
God.
God, absolutely. To say
Yeah.
I am God, while
Is
technically correct, because they can't see beyond the
technically
eye, they're
correct.
going to
Yeah.
see it as you are God,
Right. And
not
with the possibility of
I.
putting that
Huh.
as above and to be followed, and like all
Exactly,
of
and
that
reverent.
pedestal stuff. Yeah, reverend stuff.
Yeah,
Exactly, exactly.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Ooh.
And those with the resonance capable of holding that space don't say it.
Right.
They say
It's never been
we.
a comfortable
They
thing to
say
say.
you. They say
Yeah,
you are
you.
God.
Oh, okay, okay,
Say
okay.
I am God. You know,
Mhm.
they're saying you are God. If they want the person to plant the seed that they are God, they would not say I am God. They would say you are God,
Right,
because that's
right.
planting the seed in that person.
In them, okay. Because you don't need to
Yeah.
say it for your own benefit. Got
No.
it. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. You know, it's like when people say I am humble, you're like,
Are
if
you? Are you
if
though?
you have to say you're humble,
Yeah.
then you know, I'm
Yeah,
so
no,
humble.
that's
I'm the
fair.
humblest person you'll ever meet.
Right. I'm the most humble. I'm the best at being
So
humble.
I am like totally
That's super funny. That's super funny.
but that's the Leela of the play. Jovialness of this human creation. It's pretty funny when you start to step back from it and see all the pieces playing out and all of this symphony going on inside of you, and the horns are a little bit off some days and the flutes are like a little bit, and some days like it is angels singing, and other days it's dear God, could we get past the tuning, you know? And it's just it's
Yeah,
funny.
it is funny, and the universe has the best sense of humor. Like you know, when the thing happens and you're like, of course it's that exact thing. Of course it is.
Yeah,
And then you
yeah.
laugh.
Yeah,
Because
yeah.
of course.
And that realization, to me, that realization in itself is what I bow to. That is that realization of seeing the universe's Leela like that is, to me, another form of God. It's what I'll bow to. Yeah.
Well, it's all God, right? It's all God.
Literally. Yes.
Literally.
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 It's all God.
It's all God. Yeah, that's great. So how using yoga ecology can we move this idea of it's all God like into the world more, especially in relationship to trees and nature? Because this is breaking my heart. Like I think you know what I'm saying when like it's getting harder and harder to not feel that all the time. Like it's a deep grief. It's like my biggest grief, actually.
Yeah. I mean, yoga ecology is about, so yog meaning union, and ecology being in relationship to earth or to Gaia. So yoga ecology is about, once again, becoming one with the land, and to have a relation, to have a relationship with, to consider the land of where you reside and where you have come from and where your ancestry has come from and where you sleep at night, to be a part of the family, to be a relation, and to remember to bring that conversation back in reciprocity, in, you know, taking it out of rights and bringing it into responsibility. And, you know, this is where the work of Robin Wall Kimmerer is absolutely phenomenal with braiding sweetgrass. And this is where Tom Brown Jr. with Grandfather, again, absolutely phenomenal, because there are these capsules of remembrance of like, oh, you know, we are part of, not on, you know, the land. Even the work of Jacqueline Freeman, I think, hold on, I have it right here. Jacqueline Freeman, with her book, Song of Increase. Oh my God, you're going to love it, because it really is bringing the yoga ecology of the honeybee hive into a direct parable of what humans are capable of as a collective consciousness.
Yeah.
And how if we can recalibrate to the hive mentality, if we can recalibrate to living with nature like the bees live within nature, we can actually come back into that resonance. Now, fun fact, the human heart on the Solfeggio scale resonates at approximately 432 hertz. That is very much the foundation of the heart's frequency. And the honeybee hive, a healthy, happy hive, will resonate just over 400 hertz. So the frequency of the honeybee hive, when it's healthy and strong, actually resonates at the foundation of the fifth dimension of the human heart.
So that's the fifth dimension that you're talking about when you say fifth dimension all the time. Okay.
Yeah.
Because
so our universe is the fifth dimension, but we've been under sort of a shield of Maya of delusion that's anchored us into a very polarized perspective. But the foundation of the fifth, and that the fifth dimension is the entire thing, but the resonance goes from 1 through to high 12, and then in every bandwidth from 1 to 12 there is minor scales of like, so you can be fourth density, you know, the lower half of fourth density, or the higher half of fourth density, the lower half of fifth density, the higher, and it changes reality with every calibration of density. But the dimension is the fifth dimension.
Okay.
Is the fifth dimension. And fun fact, the yoga has something called Brahmari, and Brahmari is the hummingbee breath, which is considered the healing breath.
Interesting.
And that is what the heart resonates at, is Brahmari, the hummingbee breath. Yeah,
that makes sense. I see us as a globe, as a society, is evolving into or through the heart chakra right now. It's why it's so difficult. Do you know what I mean? Because you have to feel it. Like we can't heal it until we feel it. So
well, a lot,
and everyone's just trying not to feel it.
Well, exactly.
You know what I mean?
But that's the thing. Everybody's trying to fill a glass. So if you look at your spinal column from the root Muladhara chakra through the portal of Swadhisthana, that's where the babies come through, right? The uterus, to Manipura, which is the lower mind. Then you have the diaphragm, which is actually your dimensional divide. Then the foundation of the fifth is the heart, which is actually the higher mind. To get from the lower mind to the higher mind, you have to surrender. Now, to anybody in the paradigm of the third dimension, to surrender is to become weak or to lose. But that's a power over technique. That's the propaganda that we've been fed, that I bought into for many years. Don't get me wrong. In fact, my teacher wrote a birthday card once that said, Śivani, surrender is not a four-lettered word. Because every time she mentioned surrender, like my skin would crawl, going, no way, man, not me. And so then this brings us into the portal of Vishuddhi chakra, which is the throat. So what's happening in the throat is mirrored in Swadhisthana and in the sexual nature of the human experience. So right now, everybody's trying to come into love and into connectivity and all of that beauty, but they're trying to fill a glass from halfway up the glass. And when the work is not done in those lower three frequencies of fear, guilt, desire, likes and dislikes, raga desha, control, shame, anger, power over, if those are not purified to pure water, then when you start filling the glass into the heart, you're just going to end up with mud and attachment and grief. Yeah. So while it's important to keep our eye on the prize of coming into a cohesive, interconnected experience of love as a community, have to understand that to do that, first we have to find the sovereignty, come out of victim mentality, and come out of fear, because the only thing that blooms fear flowers is the seeds of fear.
Mm-hmm.
And so when you're no longer afraid, the heart can open.
I've recently discovered for myself that I've been an angry person most of my life, but anger was a cover up for the fear, because I felt safer in anger because it felt more powerful. It felt more safe, like I could fight against. And now I don't have that armor of angry self-righteousness anymore. And now when it comes, it's just fear, which is on one hand great because I'm recognizing it for what it is. But yeah, on the other hand, it's still fear. So that's always fun.
Yeah. So when we want to come out of the shadow of a chakra and into the highest expression of that chakra, Muladhara, Mul means root. So it is the foundation. If you don't water the roots, you won't grow the rest of the tree. And so when we want to come out of fear, we have to redirect, because it's just energy. The mind says it's fear, but it's just an amplification of the energy in that aspect of the consciousness. When we want to come out of fear, we have to come into trust. Now, as Catholics, recovering Catholics, Christians, we're taught that we have to trust the priest. We have to trust our parents. We have to trust, the government. We have to, so everything we've been conditioned to trust, one, has proven they're not really worthy of that trust. They're not actually as safe as we thought they were. And so we need to redirect that essence of trust to an aspect of divinity. Now, that can be Jesus, but it has to be an aspect of divinity that is attainable. It cannot come from this, it is so above me and beyond me. This is why I personally love the tantric forms of mandalas, of what most people call Hindu gods, of Ganesha and Durga and Shiva, and that, because one, there's many of them, so you can connect to which one, but they hold the essence of what it is to embody the opposite of that shadow, and you can calibrate to it using the mantra, the frequency of that mandala, of that god. So for fear, you would chant to Ganesha, because the frequencies of Ganesha are actually in full trust even beyond death, and that is the mythology of Ganesha. So when we seed our faith into something beyond this world, beyond this humanality of the experience, then whether we live or whether we die, it does not matter. Our faith is unwavering.
Right.
Then nothing can stop you.
Right. Yeah. No.
So what do you trust?
Okay.
What form is so beautiful? Like for me, because my name is Śivani, Shiva being fearless, Śivani is another name for Durga, which is the fearless mother, because I have a lot of anxiety. So I really got to work at trusting. So, I got the 32 names of Durga as an offering.
Wow.
To be like, no, this lifetime, let's go. Divine Mother, the left side of the body, we're going fearless, but you have to be able to chant it. And in fact, I asked the tattoo artist to learn how to chant it before I would let her put it on me, because I wanted her to be in the resonance of the mantra. Om Durga, Durga, Dishamani, Durga, Padrini Badani, Durga Vichcherani, Durga Sadhani, Durga Nashini, so because it's all physics, it's all resonance. Yeah.
That's really neat. It's interesting how a different language helps to readjust your mind to something that you're not quite understanding. It's beyond your mind to filter it and say, oh, I get it, or I know it. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, Sanskrit is not a intellectual. I mean, it's intellectual, but it's not an intellectual language. It's a language of light. It's light language, because it's just purely resonant. It's not saying Durga is this and Durga is that. And when you're like, I believe that. It's not about what you believe. It's what you can feel. Just like you said at the beginning of our discussion, you have to be able to feel it. And when you chant mantras, you can feel them. Even if you can't chant them, if you just listen to them, you can feel your body start to calibrate in this frequency of light that the mantra is holding.
Interesting. I'm learning my Celtic. It is very beautiful. The Celtic reconnecting has brought me to Gaelic, which is interesting because the Irish feel that Irish and Gaelic is magic. It's a manifestation language. And I'm getting that, like the book Speaking to the Trees from Diana Beresford Kroger is where I first Mochacheg. Well, it's brought me from Irish to Gaelic because I'm both Irish.
Right.
Well, you would know too.
Yes.
Yeah, but that it's having a resonance in me that I don't really understand in my mind, and I'm okay with that. Just saying the words brings connection to physical embodiment of spirituality. So
and you just got to follow those breadcrumbs because they're absolutely delicious.
Breadcrumbs. Yes, it is breadcrumbs.
Right?
I love that. Yeah 100%.